we're after 12. I've got 2 more periods to go. Mistakes. Why didn't the Stormers beat the Bulls on the weekend? Yeah, but there were mistakes. Mistakes. Do they know how to beat the Stormers? Yes. Do the Stormers know how to beat them? Yes. Does it happen? No. Why didn't Man City beat Chelsea? They know how to beat Chelsea, especially after going 1-0 up. Then you should win that game. Okay. Why didn't that Italian won the Madrid Open? He won the first set. Didn't. Probably the only example this weekend of somebody who actually used these leads was that young golfer from Stellenbosch who won on the European Tour for the second time in 3 weeks and almost broke a record for the lowest score ever. Regardless, people, those people also make mistakes. Fortunately, in his case, he had a 7-stroke lead, so he made a mistake and he only ended up 6 strokes, but he still won. We're usually not that fortunate. The problems that I've identified with and one thing I want to just reiterate again, the information on that page have not changed from the previous slideshow that I showed you on Friday, except for one thing. Because I know sometimes it affects your mindset. When you get your paper and it says 2 hours, 100 marks, and right at the bottom, I've added 20 questions. You just think, oh my word, I'm never going to finish 20 questions. Just remember, the system, Canvas, captures every single question individually. So it shows 20 questions, but all the multiple choice and all the true and false questions, they count as one. It's not one section with 10 questions or one section with 5 questions. It captures all of them as one question. Okay, so it includes that. It's not, one of the questions will be a 12-mark question and one of the questions will be a 1-mark question. The system counts each of them individually as one question, regardless of what the mark value is. The next thing I have added, though, that I want to address before I specifically talk about your class test, which fortunately, after the correction on the system this morning, I could mark. So I've marked your class test number 2 this morning. Okay, I just don't have time to mark both, but I've marked the second paper, and I'm going to spend a lot of time on those chapters again, because it's clear to me still that there's confusion, and the reason why I've got what I've got up on the screen is this particular slide deals with multiple choice and with true and false questions. Just to give you an idea how it's structured. You've seen it before, but for some people, sometimes it still remains confusing. A multiple choice option would give you instructions at the top. This one says, select the correct answer option from each question. There's only one correct answer. The question in this case, one of the benefits of customer satisfaction, customer loyalty, and revenue growth can be described as, and then you've got A, B, C, D options. Okay, there's only one correct option. Another reason why I've brought this up and I put it on the screen is to give you some guidance if you haven't figured out how to successfully address multiple choice, because a lot of you make mistakes in the multiple choice questions. Commonly, the mistake is made because some of the questions or some of the answers seem very similar, and that sometimes confuses us. So my advice to you is, if you haven't tried it before, try it now. Read the question, answer the question, and then look at the options A, B, C, and D. Because then the right answer that you have already selected in your head will pop up. If you read the question and then you read the 4 options, by the time you read option number 4, You're confused. Oh, that sounds almost similar than question one, option one. Okay, so do not confuse yourself with multiple choice questions. Answer the question and then look at the options. Okay, it works 9 out of 10 times. It works. It works better. And selecting C with all this also doesn't work. Okay, if you're one of those people who did multiple choice, oh, it's easy. I'll pick C every time. Okay, you think you can get 50% for the multiple choice section? Probably not. Okay, the answer is not always C. Right. Read the question, answer the question, then look at the options. True or false? Again, just to ensure that you are familiar with the way it's structured, indicate whether the following statements are true or false. In this case, this was from a written paper 3 years ago. It also asks you, if false, motivate your answer. You don't get that option with us. Okay, it's true or false. And I'll give you, the question is there, so it's quite simple. A market consists of people or organizations with needs and wants and will be, and with the ability and the willingness to buy. True or false? Simple as that. No motivation, nothing. It's true or false. Don't guess. You have your textbooks. You have enough time. Please. This is where you lose marks easily. Yes, okay, it's only 1 mark. But collectively, over 100 marks, you add them up, it's a difference between 48 and 50. Okay. I'm confident, though, that none of you are ever will be borderline cases. If you listen to what I have to say today, if you pay attention to the advice I give you, if you look at the slide, and if you listen to the recording, it's quite simple. Let's make it simple and let's keep it simple. Right, I'm going to go to the next slide because the next slide deals specifically with how do you interpret and read a question. 90% of the mistakes you made in your class test was because you didn't read the question. Question 1. Can you remember what question 1 was? Question 1 says, the steps in the decision-making process, consumer decision-making process. 99% of you got it right. 10% of that 99, however, were given the benefit of the doubt by me because it wasn't in the correct order. But also the question then didn't specifically say, give it in the right order. So if you gave the 5 steps to me, I gave you the 5 marks. But remember in future, if they require you the steps in the process, ensure that it's in the correct order. It has made me pay more attention to structuring my questions correctly, so there is no confusion. The second part of the question was the different risks, potential risks. Some of you only named the risks for me, but didn't give me examples. Then you're only going to get 5 marks and not 10. Only give you 4 risks with no examples, then you're going to get 4. Therefore, you get 9 if you had the first one. 1 point. Some people didn't even answer 1.2. Question 1 had 2 sections. It was the decision-making process, and the second question was the risks and example. Again, 99% got it right. Those who didn't get it right got the 4 risks correct, but they didn't give examples as requested. It's the bottom of the options here. And there, people, I have said it on Friday and I will repeat myself. Look at the mark allocation. The question 1.2 that I just said, name the risk or potential risk that consumers can experience and give an example of each. Financial risk, functional risk, social risk, physical risk, those were the 4. And give an example. It would say in brackets after the question 4 times 2. One is for the fact that you've mentioned, and 2 is for the second mark is for the example. In this case, on the screen, it says either name or identify, because name and identify means exactly the same thing. Name it, identify it, or list it. They all mean the same thing. It means that you just have to give the fact back to me. Briefly describe or explain, that means the same thing. Tell me a bit more. What is a financial risk? What is a functional risk? Give me an example. Provide an example. What's the mark allocation? 5 times 3. 1 for naming it, 2 for describing it, 3 for giving an example. It is straightforward, but you don't read the question thoroughly enough. There is enough time. This was a 13-mark question. Question 1 was 13 marks. Your total class test was 35 marks. Wouldn't you spend a bit more time on question 1 then? Because if you pass question 1, you're almost halfway there. You only need 4 more marks, 5 more marks to actually to get 50% for your class test. Look at the mark allocation, people. You are throwing marks away. Question 2, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And specifically the question that was structured in such a manner, I can remember clearly, was name the different levels of risks in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, needs, and give it to me in the correct order in which they are satisfied. Half of you got nothing out of 10 there because you started with self-actualization. That's not how the needs are satisfied. I clearly, specifically said in class, the needs are satisfied from the bottom up. Physiological needs first, then safety, then social, then esteem, and only then right at the top. That's why the triangle goes upwards, because you will have very little needs. Everybody has the needs at the bottom because that is what we need to survive. Nobody's going to care if they have on their bucket list to go to the moon or to open their own business or to become a CEO in their company, if they're hungry, if they have no place to sleep, if they feel unsafe. Read the question. It says clearly, A, provide me with the different levels of needs in the order that they are satisfied, and provide an example. Some of you wrote me brilliant paragraphs and explanations and classic examples of each. It was in the wrong order. I can't give it to you. And don't say, but there's 5 levels, so if I have social in the middle, no. Social is in the middle, regardless if you satisfy the needs from the bottom up or from the top down. But not in the context of the question. Read the question. Am I to be being very finicky? No. You only have to remember 5 levels. It is quite straightforward. But read the question carefully and look at the mark allocation. 5 times 2 indicate to me that I have to, especially if the question says, name it in the right order and give an example of each. If you name it in the right order, 5 marks. If you name it in the right order and you give an example of each, 10 marks out of 10. If you give me the 5, but in the wrong order, no marks. If you give me all 5 of them in the wrong order with examples, also not out of 10. Now, if you have 10 marks immediately through not reading a question carefully, removed out of 35, you can imagine. That's the difference between 30 out of 35, all of a sudden being 20 out of 35. Okay. I'll pay more attention to the rest of the class test by actually going to the slide of the last 2 chapters. It was clear to me that, again, 99% of you knew the difference between segmentation and targeting. but you were not very specific. You've got to be very specific. Segmentation is when you break people up into smaller groups. People, that's not segmentation. Breaking people, I can break this class here up into 3 groups now. Guys next to the wall on the left-hand side, you group 1, you guys in the middle, group 2, you guys group 3. Is it 3 different segmentations? No, it's just 3 groups. Market segmentation refer to customers with similar needs and wants and characteristics that are grouped together so we can target a market whose needs we can satisfy with what we are offering. Otherwise, and I've said it many times, you can send the wrong message to the right people, but you can also send the right message to the wrong people because you're not targeting the market correctly. You have not segmented the market properly. Also important mistakes that were made. Distinguish in that particular chapter. I'm going to move on to that specific slide. I'm going to go to chapter 5 and we're going to be looking at chapter 5 specifically. One question was on the difference between or definitions of segmentation and of market target marketing. Okay, targeting it's deciding who you're going to target. I'm not going to give you a mark for that. I was lenient. I gave you 1 mark because it is 3 for segmentation and 3 for targeting. Okay, look at how you express yourself. Assume I don't know anything. Remember, all your tests, all the formal tests, not class tests, all your formal tests are also being moderated before the results are out. So let's get that off the table as well. There's 64, no, there's 42 students between the campuses on this course. Some of the questions, the computer marks, multiple choice, true and false, the computer marks. But that's 30% of the paper. The rest I will manually do. And only when I'm done with everything, it's moderated. Okay, so don't phone me on Wednesday or Thursday or even Friday. Say what? When do we get our marks? You're going to get your marks when they're moderated. We as markers have 3 to 5 days to complete the marking after the test has been done. And it's sent to the moderator, which then takes randomly 10 and moderated.
Jaco, I lost you there. I don't know if Jaco? We can't hear you, Jaco. Yes, I think someone just left the meeting.
Jaco.
Sorry, we're back. Can you hear me?
Hello, Jaco. Yes, we can.
Right. Sorry, just the internet dropped and
We thought you were like really upset about the one-word answer, so you just sort of.
I would never be upset about the answer. I didn't make the mistake. It was the students who took the test who made the mistake. Silly mistakes. That upsets me. If you make silly mistakes.
Oh,
Anyway,
okay.
let's. I'm gonna get it up on the screen again. Actually, as a matter of fact, I'm not gonna get that up on the screen. I'm gonna get chapter 5 on segmentation up on the screen because.
Jaco, while you're busy with that, may I ask you, can we see the test and your marking?
Yes, you can. I will make it available later today.
Okay.
I'll finish
Cool.
with the test. Okay.
And then another question I have, that class test that we did on the 21st of April.
Yes.
Is that marked yet?
Yes and no, Andre.
Okay.
You
Because
didn't join from the start. When I wanted to mark the test on Sunday, the second one you wrote, my system just said, sorry, it's not available. You can't mark it. I went to the technical people as first thing this morning. They took me off the system and they uploaded me again, and then I could see the papers, and that's why I marked the second test before class this morning. But I have to do exactly the same with number 1 again as well.
Okay. No, I'm just, when I look at those points, I'm like, ouch.
No. It's purely because there's no, it hasn't been.
I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you for your efforts. Thanks.
And I would have hated for the test to be, for you to write a test tomorrow, me wanting to mark on Wednesday, and all of a sudden I can't mark. Okay, so we've resolved that, and I checked it, and that's why I marked the class test this morning. I thought it was relevant because it's still fresh in your memories, and also that's why I decided no extra new work this morning. We're focusing just on your on feedback on the test, mistakes you made specifically, context. Everybody knows the context. None of you had problems with any particular questions of, oh geez, I'm completely off the ball. I don't know where to get the information. I don't know what they're asking here. You guys were all there, but you made silly mistakes. And I've already highlighted some of them, and that's why I'm going to chapter. That's why I'm going to chapter 5, the segmentation. I'm just going to. Okay, the session is still recording. That's good, so it's fine. I don't have to re-record again. Chapter 5, segmentation, targeting, and positioning. I said at the start of the chapter, or at the start of the session today, that. I said at the start of the chapter today that some of you have made silly errors, especially when it came to the definitions of segmentation and targeting. You weren't clear enough. That's why I've put it up on the screen again to make sure that you understand exactly. If it says 3 marks, don't say to me, segmentation is breaking people up into groups. That's breaking up people into groups. That's not segmentation. You're not going to get 3 marks for that. Okay. I'm not interested in you knowing all the definitions by heart. But clearly, from what I've just said and given you as an example of an answer I've received to dividing groups of people, remember, and this is where in the breakdown of a definition like this is where you get your marks. Divide a group of people within a broad mass market, 1 mark, into smaller groups, 2, with similar characteristics, we expect to have similar expectations, 3. That's where you get 3 marks from. Anything along the lines of, out of all the consumers out there in the entire mass market, I'm breaking up them according to specific needs, similar needs and characteristics and behaviors into smaller groups, so we can satisfy the needs by focusing, and that's where the targeting comes in, where you have now decided which market you are going to target, because you know what your capacity is to be able to do. That's why you've done that profiling. I'm going to be marketing PlayStations, specifically PlayStation 4 to a selected market between the ages of 7 and 17. Okay. Although there's more people over the age of 17 playing PlayStation now anyway. It's a lie if parents tell their kids that you can't get a PlayStation. They want that PlayStation. Just keep on nagging a bit more because your dad wants to play as well. Don't worry. Okay, we know that. Different games than you, yes. Okay, you want to go into Fallout and all these things and Gran Turismo and dad wants to play something different. Okay, but the fact is he wants to. But that would be a specific market that I've targeted. In other words, are there more people who want PlayStations? Yes, that's the group over 17. That's a different market segment. That's a different market segment, and I've targeted it differently because we've used the criteria here of age to differentiate our segments here. Okay, people, be very specific. Don't tell me targeting is now we're going to focus on a group. On what group and why? Okay. It is to now focus on our target. And the target is what? Listen to the answers I'm giving you because I'm reading back answers that I got from you. Okay. Right. Another thing that a lot of students battled with in this particular chapter is to differentiate between target market strategies, and they are, julle het ons nog al leer. What's a target market strategy? Differentiated marketing, undifferentiated marketing, concentrated marketing. That's a market strategy. That was a question. That was the last question. Remember I gave you Coca-Cola and Ferrari? Ferrari is nie undifferentiated nie, want ons kan nie elkeen 'n Ferrari ry nie. We can't all afford and drive a Ferrari. That's not undifferentiated. Undifferentiated is mass. We are targeting nobody in particular, everybody. That's our strategy. Our strategy to cover a market. We want market coverage. We want as many people in our market that we can service. So our strategy is that we're going to focus on everybody. That's undifferentiated. We're not discriminating or excluding anybody from our marketing campaign.
Is that mass marketing then?
No. That's where you guys made mistakes. I'm talking about a targeting strategy. And I'm specifically referring to it at this point because some people use the levels of segmentation, which is mass and niche and segment and micro. They confuse the two. Be clear, and that's what I said. Mistakes that were made is fine if it's 1 or 2 marks in a class test. That's why the class test is a test of where you are at this point. I don't doubt that any of you don't know the work. What I do is have a serious concern about, and that's why we're having this session today, is that you do not carefully always read the question. That's why you get Maslow upside down and you get 0 out of 10. That's why you confuse levels of segmentation with strategies, marketing strategies. Okay? There are 4 levels of segmentation. Now, people, these are the levels of segmentation. Yes, and this is where the confusion comes in, but that's also where you need to make the link. Mass marketing as a level of marketing segmentation. The strategy for you to reach that mass market is undifferentiated marketing. The strategy to reach a niche market is and micro market is concentrated marketing. Is that clear? Because that's maybe where some of the confusion came in. but only if you read the question properly. If you read the question, and people, I promise you, you have more than enough time. You have more than enough time. 30%, I think, it might even be slightly more, but at least 30% of tomorrow's test, you get the answers, you just have to select the right one. Multiple choice, is it A, B, C, or D? You don't have to think. You get the answers, you just have to select the right one. But now people spend 15 minutes on one multiple choice question to page through their textbooks to find where it is, but they forget there's a 15-mark question, 15-mark question that will take you exactly the same time. People, look at the mark allocations. I repeat myself because that's indication of how much you have to do. I know you've made that mistake. The class tests have proven that to me. So somebody who got a low mark in the class test doesn't mean that student doesn't know his work or her work. It just means that Maslow was upside down. The risks that you had in question 1, you didn't give me examples for. Okay, because that's, boom, 15 marks gone. Almost half of your class test gone. Any questions that you want to ask at this point? 4 levels of segmentation, not to be confused with the target marketing strategies. Understand the difference between segmentation and targeting, and you'll understand the difference and the link between levels of segmentation and target market strategies. The strategies is how you will target that segment, which could be mass, segment, niche, micro. Okay. Any other questions at this stage about that? The other question that some of you had problems with, a lot of you got it right, but some got it wrong. When we are going to segment and market, it's very easy to break this group. I've got students in front of me, 1, 2, 3, 6, 8, 7. No, how much got 4? 4 plus 5 is 9. Okay. We've got 9 students in class. If I want to break them up into 3 groups, I can either, because there are male and female students here, I can either split the group 7-2, that's according to gender. Okay. But is that a sufficient market? Is only 2 people in a market big enough market?
No.
Accessibility is not going to be a problem because they run in front of me. I can tell them what the product is. I can even show them what the product is. I can even have them touch the product. Okay? Accessibility is not a problem. Defendability depends on the product. That has to do with the product. Okay? Tangibility, yes. In this case, they can't touch the product because they're right here. Distinctiveness, is it actually so much different that we need to split this group up 7-2? Or would it be a product that actually, like for instance, a watch, that's basically male and females can wear? Okay. That's how you decide if the market is going to be big enough for you to actually break it up into a segment. If it's not big enough, then I'm not going to segment this group for a watch among 9 consumers. Even if they each represented a province in our country, still not. Because I'm not sure if the two females maybe represent the Northern Cape, and which is not densely populated, and the Free State, for instance. Not two of the smaller provinces, but when it comes to consumers, probably a small group. Okay, so even if it's done on that, even if it's not the individual here in front of me, just 9 people, if it's 9 provinces, again, is it really worthwhile to split up into a segment for that particular product? No. So we have to use 4 criteria, and the 4 criteria is on your screen, and that's accessibility, tangibility, distinctiveness, and defendability. Okay, as I said again, 9, probably not, no, probably about 70% if you got that right. Questions, answers that I got here was mass, niche, micro. No, that's the 4 levels of segmentation. Read the question. The question very specifically said, in fact, I copied it exactly from this slide. The question was, when you're evaluating a target segment, it should be done according to 4 criteria. There's the criteria, name them. Okay? It is immaterial if you can remember where you made your mistakes. I'm giving you feedback, which is general feedback. I don't want you to focus on your mark you got for the test. I want to focus on these mistakes that were made. They're not common mistakes. In other words, not all of them make it or made it. There were students who got 35 out of 35 for the class test, which means to believe that, well, there's more than one student who got 35 out of 35. There are quite a few. So is it possible? Yes. In other words, they read the questions correctly, right? That to me is what you should be concentrating on. I can understand if you had to sit a test in class and you have to write your answers on a notepad or an exam pad. Because if you then forget stuff, it's just your bad luck. But you are doing an online quiz where you have access to your learning resources, textbooks, notes. You shouldn't be making these mistakes. That's throwing marks away. And you can say, yeah, okay, right, there's an assignment still to be submitted next week. I'll come bump my marks there. Every mark you give away by making a silly mistake, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I just felt that a lot of marks are just left out there. Okay, it's just a class test. Yes, it is just a class test, but it's also and it is not going to, in the bigger picture, count for that much. It's probably going to be 3 or maximum 4 marks. If you have 100% for all your class tests, you're probably going to get 5 marks out of your total mark for the term. But that's not the point. The point is, this is where we can make mistakes, because the impact is not as great as when you're writing a formal test that counts 40% towards your year mark. Okay? 10 out of 35, probably 1 mark. 35 out of 100 counts 40% of that 35 marks. People, that's why I don't want to build make you more anxious, because it's a normal emotion to experience before a test, to be anxious. But you've got that. Remember that there's a TV show a couple of years ago. Oh no, probably before your time. You probably won't remember. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And you have an option. They ask you a question, there's a couple of answers, and you've got to select one. It's multiple choice. All of them is multiple choice. Imagine you can win $1 million through multiple choice. When did Jan van Riebeeck land in the Cape? 1652, 1852, 1752, or 1452? Oh, geez, now all of a sudden, see, that's what I said. You either know the answer or you go find the answer before you look at the options, because if you look at the options, you become confused. It's 1652 for those who didn't know or couldn't remember. Okay, right, so I've got one. I can go to the next level. If I didn't know the answer, I have two choices. I could phone a friend, buddy of me at home, say, hey, quickly Google for me, man. No? You can do that. That's the rules of the competition, but then you lose that chance. You can ask the people in the audience, what do you say? There's a thingy in front of you, pick one. And then they go with the majority. 60% of the people in the group, in the audience, they said it's 1652. Okay, if you are not sure yourself, you can go with that. That's another option that you can have in this game. People, when you are sitting a class test or an exam at home as an online quiz, I'm not sure if you're phoning friends or not. Based on the mistakes that you made in the class test, I'll be very, very careful who I phone. Okay, I mean that in a very nice way. I'd much rather go to my textbook and try and find it, or my notes that I've made for myself. Okay, people, trust your notes, trust the material. It's there, you have it available. But very important with any online, and I know that you guys are quite familiar with it. You did a lot of that last year. Those who were in grade 12 last year, you did a lot of stuff online. Your uni exam, June exams and September exams. June exams were online, wasn't it? Not. You actually set the test, and September, and then the finals. Okay. Have you done any online exams or tests before your experience now? Not. Okay. Are you familiar with it now? Are you coming to terms with it now? Okay. Could you go back to a previous question if you didn't know the answer? Right. That's why we said it like that. Your paper tomorrow is exactly the same. If the setting, if I chose the setting, question per page, then you couldn't go back to the next. Oh, now remember what the criteria is for evaluating a target market. That's those four: accessibility, tangibility. Yes, now I can remember. So you can scroll up and you can answer it again. Okay, people, do not waste time on a question. Don't take a multiple choice question. Shouldn't take you more than a minute to answer, because it takes 30 seconds to read. You might take another 30 seconds to read it for a second time. So what am I saying? It's as important that you know the context of the work than you know where to find it in your textbook. I used to hate the open book test at school, because I know, A, the time will be less because we have access to the resources. Okay. But I also know that if you have a textbook of 500 pages, you fortunately have 4 chapters to cover. 1, 2, 3, and 5. It's a lot of work because this is not the only module. But the fact is, people, really, if you know, and how do you know? Well, I've broken up the exam preparation session, that PowerPoint that I showed you on Friday, and which I've updated in the meantime with the information that I've shared before the session now. Which is already uploaded. It replaced the previous one because I just added more stuff. It's already on Canvas. But to me, it's important that you know where to find the stuff. What's the title of chapter 1? Introduction to Business Marketing. What can you expect in the introduction? Yes, an overview of marketing. What is marketing? Give me a definition of marketing. What are the different orientations and what's the marketing mix? What's the marketing process? Right? That gives you an overview. Just gives you a snapshot at what is going to follow in the next couple. It's like a trailer for a movie. This trailer is about marketing. Chapter 2. Environment. Internal, external. Internal, also called micro. Marketing environment. External, also called macro environment. All the factors within that. Why and how do we study that in the external environment? We do a pestle analysis. Right? How do we study our internal strengths and weaknesses? We do a SWOT analysis. People, boom, tick. That's chapter 2, gone. Chapter 1 and 2. Chapter 3, consumer decision making. Right? Understanding the consumer. How do you understand the consumer? By realizing that the consumer, A, has needs and he has wants. What are you going to focus on? Both. You can't decide for him if he. It's immaterial if the customer needs it or wants it. That's not for you to decide. They have wants and they have needs. Remember, at the start of the session today, I said, what do you want to do today? Not what do you need to do today. What you need to do today is study for tomorrow's test. What do you want to do today? Everybody has different wants and desires. Okay. You don't have to do the wants, but you must do the needs. Okay. 5 steps in the decision-making process. Boom, you all got that right. Again, some of you were fortunate. It wasn't given in the correct order, but then I've also said that I didn't structure the question to require you to do it in the right order. But if I ask you to apply those 5 steps to a case study, for instance, it has to be in the correct order. Why? How can you buy a product before you haven't identified the problem and gathered information about all the options available and evaluated all those options against the criteria that you've set for yourself? How can you do a post-purchase evaluation if you haven't bought the product? People, it has to be in the right order. Any process, I'm not going to ask you, name the 5 steps in the consumer decision-making process in the correct order. There is only one order. That's why it's a process. If I ask you to name the basis for segmentation, what would your answer be? Basis for segmentation? Anybody? Which bases are used to segment markets? Demographics. Demographics. I hear somebody shout you in the class. Anybody else online? Behavioral, the benefits you can experience. Psychographic. Geographic. Geodemographic. Those are bases. People, do not confuse yourself. Make a little storybook on your notepad. Right. We want to break the entire market up into smaller segments so we can focus on some of the segments. Right. That's actually that's segmentation. That's the definition of segmentation. Almost. Who are we going to put in all the different segments? Well, we're going to put people who have similar characteristics and similar needs and similar behaviors together. Right. Which basis can we use to do that? Okay. How they behave. Where they live. Yes. Okay. Age, gender, demographics, their lifestyle, physiographics. Right, that's the basis. How are we going to target those specific markets? That's market segmentation. That's through 3 strategies. An undifferentiated, differentiated, and a concentrated target marketing strategy. I've covered the entire chapter. You can put it in a little picture, draw a little picture for you on a notepad. Students, it's not difficult. Don't make it difficult for yourself. Because with what I've just said, you cannot confuse the levels of segmentation with the basis used to segment markets and the strategies on how to target them. You cannot confuse it. Listen to this recording. I'm going to upload it this afternoon.
Okay.
I couldn't make it more clear. Have anybody got any questions? I'm not mad at you. I want you to do well.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if you're angry with us.
No, I'm not angry. I'm angry at you making silly mistakes because I know you know the work.
Yeah,
I sit in class and ask a student a question and the student gives me the right answer.
But why do you ask us
such later can't you give an exact same answer in a test? That's what I don't know.
Yeah.
So people, I don't want you to make mistakes because I don't want you to cry in June and say, man, I can kick myself and made a silly mistake. If you're going to make mistakes, and that's why we have this intervention now. If you're going to make mistakes, make it in your class test. The impact is not that much on your overall mark. But please learn from those mistakes before tests like tomorrow.
But you will give us the test so we can look back at it, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I can't remember totally. I think the last one I might have screwed up, but I can't remember exactly what answers I gave and where I actually screwed it up.
100%.
I need to have a look at it again. Thanks.
No problem. Anybody, any questions? You're doing it for yourselves, eh?
Okay.
Okay. End of the day, if your mother comes, no. If your mother comes and says, "Listen, my daughter didn't know that. Listen, I'm gonna play this recording to her. I warned you, and I said, listen, I'm giving you feedback. I'm not mad at you. I'm just, it frustrates me when I know you know the work and you mess it up by not reading the question properly. Okay. Read the question properly. That's my last message to you. Read the questions properly. Look at the mark allocation. It's in the PowerPoint. I've given you examples of how questions can be structured and how words like list, name, identify, describe, explain, how they are used in context of a question. Okay.
Okay.
You'll be fine, really, promise me. I promise you, you'll be fine. Okay. Any questions from anybody online? These guys here can see already. Oh, the smokers. Masks are off already. They want to just.
No, just wish us luck.
No, I do. And as I said previously, I know that you all have the ability to do well. Do not find the right time of day. You know when you're at your best. That's when you have to sit the test. The work is there. Use the tools that is accessible to you. Don't overcomplicate things. And I repeat, read the question properly and look at what the mark allocation is. It's not a tough test. It's definitely not tougher than the class test.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Jaco.
Good luck, everybody. And
Good luck,
if there's anybody who wants to ask me something individually, please drop me an email. That's best way of communication for the rest of the day and tomorrow. I have class tomorrow, but I also have off period, so I can still address your concerns. And it must be related to the question, to the test. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, man.
You all good? Watch each other. You know the nice thing about marking papers, I don't know all your names yet. So I haven't put the face to the name, and that's why I can't be mad at you, because I don't know who I should be mad at. I'm just general feedback.
Thanks, Jaco, man.
It's a pleasure, guys. Keep well.
Thank you.
Good luck for tomorrow.
Dankie, dankie.
Always a pleasure.